As I've consistently said for a number of years, the MLS is the most fun league on FIFA in my opinion. I've always had fun career modes here, it's got a lot of good players, a lot of good teams, stadiums, and it's just generally different to all the other things on FIFA. In this video, I'll be explaining the rules in a super quick and super straightforward way so that you can try and follow them when you're actually playing your career mode, rather than just signing 30 international players, which is not allowed in the MLS. I'll also be telling you some of the better teams to pick, why you should generally choose the MLS, a little bit about American fan culture, and then a little bit more about stadiums, team signings, and things like that. I'll make sure to be as quick as possible with all the rules and stuff, so let's get into that straight away. Basically, the MLS, you're allowed a squad of 30 players. 20 of these players have to be on less than £5,000 per week. This is in English money, but if you're playing in American money, it needs to be less than $7,500 a week. 2 players in every squad, so this is 2 of the 30 players, need to be under 24. They can be from any nation and they can be on any wage, but they just have to be under 24 and they don't count towards this wage cap. 8 of the players don't have to be under 24, they can just be from any nation on any wage. This will give you a squad where 20 players are on the wage cap of £5,000, you'll have 2 young players from anywhere, and you'll have 8 players from anywhere that have no wage cap restrictions. All 20 of the players on the wage cap need to be American, but this doesn't count for your youth academy. If you bring through a Brazilian or a Mexican, they don't count towards any of the international rules. They count as long as you sign them before 16, they count as American according to these rules. So this is exactly how it works in real life MLS. If you want to edit any of these, maybe give yourself 10 players, make it a little bit easier, or just get rid of the wage cap because it does make things a bit tricky, then go for it, anything to keep it fun for your save. But if you want to be super hardcore, try and follow these rules to the letter, because the rules make it almost impossible to actually become overpowered when playing in the MLS, and that's the whole point of them in real life. So where should you be sending your youth scouts? Well, most of the players in the league are from either America, Canada, or somewhere like Mexico or England. They have the biggest trend, but you can really scout wherever because these rules mean you can just sign a bunch of players from Nigeria, you can sign a bunch of players from South Africa, Japan, Australia. It doesn't matter where you like scouting. Scout the USA and Canada with 2 of your youth scouts and send the 3rd one wherever you want. I really think this is one of the coolest things about the MLS, that there's just no restrictions in regards to player signings. Of course, if you want to try and simulate the draft, which is a big thing about American sports, do a 9-month scouting report in March. Don't view any of the scout reports as they're coming in every month. And then in around November or December, have a look at the scouting reports, sign 3 or 4 players, and this can be your draft, because that's how it works in real life. You don't sign players through your youth academy that often. Instead, you just get a draft where all the youth players are pulled together and teams take it in turn to already pick these. If you're using your youth scouts in this kind of way, then quite a lot of the clubs around you will actually have already signed players off here, so it does make it quite realistic, and you will still get some really good talent in your youth scout reports. Until EA actually decides to add the draft, that's exactly the way that I play this, and I think it's the best way to simulate it that you can do in FIFA. So that's a couple of ways to keep the MLS a bit more challenging and a bit more realistic. What else can you do? Well, you can limit your player signings to being under 80 rated, because very few players actually come into the league that are over this. I would give yourself 1, maybe 2 players that can be over 80. This is to kind of simulate the Beckham, Higuain, Matuidi, Giovinco, Zlatan, Wayne Rooney. They were all above this rating when they came into the MLS. So you need to try and have maybe 1, 2, as I said, at that kind of rating, just to make sure the game doesn't become too easy. When you're doing this as well, don't sign a 23-year-old Haaland. Go for someone that's 30, 31, maybe on the decline. Go for someone like Giroud instead of Haaland. They're not going to be as effective, but he's more likely to actually go to the MLS. Cool, so now you know the rules and you know how to keep it realistic. Let's have a look at some of the teams that you can actually pick. You've got one of the fan favourites, Atlanta United. They joined the league 4 years ago. They share ground with the Atlanta Falcons NFL team. They won an MLS Cup in just their 2nd season, and they have the highest single match attendance in MLS history, with 72,500 fans going to one of their matches. This means they are a big, well-supported team with recent success, but they're also fairly new, so they do have some history. In 2020, they came 23rd out of 26 teams, and in 2021, they came 9th out of 27 teams because a new one was added in 2021. So you do have a bit of a progression here. They did really well. They were really bad in 2020, and then they've come back into the sort of mid-table to nearly at the playoffs in 9th place this year. FC Dallas is a bit different. Instead of being all about big fans and big name signings, they are very much the youth academy of the MLS. Players that you will know the name of, like Weston McKennie, Ricardo Pepi, Reggie Cannon, and the Funes Murray brothers who played for Benfica and Everton, all came through the youth academy of FC Dallas. So if you're more interested in bringing through the next generation of American talent, then I think Dallas is probably the team for you to pick. In real life, they have been pretty poor this season. They finished 23rd out of 27 teams, so there was only a couple teams that were actually worse than them. The youth academy in Dallas will be one of the things that brings them back to the top of the MLS though, with Ricardo Pepi being one of the biggest names in the MLS right now, despite only being 18 years old. I haven't seen a player have this much hype since someone like Brek Shea. Well, he turned out to be a flop. Let's hope that Ricardo Pepi doesn't if you take over FC Dallas. FC Cincinnati have a similar name, but they have a very different history. They were the worst team by far in 2020, something they matched in 2021. They only joined the league in 2019, and they do have an in-state rivalry, which isn't that common in the MLS. The rivalry is hilariously called the Hell is Real Derby. You can't really imagine that the passion of the Columbus Derby will be that passionate compared to some of the European ones, but let's hope that the Hell is Real Derby is as awesome as it sounds. They're really the road to glory team in the MLS, so if you choose Cincinnati, you've got a long way to go to be one of the better teams. Speaking of big names and one of the better teams, Inter Miami should be doing a lot better than they are doing. They're owned by Beckham, of course. It was part of his contract when he joined LA about 14 years ago, and 2020 was actually their first season in the MLS. You can see they're planning on staying in Miami for a while because they're building a new purpose-built stadium, but it's only going to have 18,000 seats. There's not a lot of support in Miami. What there is a lot of big names. You've got Higuain, Matuidi. Of course, the manager is Phil Neville, one of Beckham's best friends, which is a bit suspicious to say that he's the owner. The assistant manager is actually Tony Pulis' son, and neither of them could stop Inter Miami from falling down to 21st in 2021, so only 6 teams are actually worse than Miami, despite them having some of the biggest names. So that's 4 of the teams that I recommend you pick. You've got Atlanta if you want to get the big name players, people like Joseph Martinez, one of the best players in the league. You've got FC Dallas for the youth academy save. You've got FC Cincinnati for the road to glory, and you've got Inter Miami for probably more of a rebuild. Let me know if you've picked one of these in the comments below, or message me on Discord where I'd love to hear you talk about the MLS. In regards to stadiums and signings, there's actually 6 teams that have real stadiums in the league: Vancouver, Seattle, LA Galaxy, Atlanta, Portland, and the New York Red Bulls. They all have real stadiums, they're scanned, and they look amazing in game. Realistic signings for the MLS unfortunately very much play into the stereotype that the league is for old men, because a lot of the more European-based signings that are joining the league are absolutely past it. Some of the ones I recommend you have a look at: Falcao, who's absolutely bossing La Liga at the moment, people like Willian, Matic, Alexis Sanchez, Juan Mata, Adam Lallana, players that age where they're just not that good and they can't compete at the level they're at anymore. You could also sign Mexican players, people like Andres Guardado, Jose Macias, Roberto Alvarado, good names and good players. If you're playing in Canada, you could also sign some French players, people like Koscielny, Kevin Prince Boateng, Bolasie, Mathieu Debuchy, just big name French players that are past it and towards the ends of their careers. That's all we have for today's video. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Like if you're going to do an MLS career mode after watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, or if you've got any suggestions, leave them in the comments below. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and I'll see you very soon on the Geography channel for a next video. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.